Hello, I'm Jonasz Rewiński and you're watching Break the Fake. They make them, we break them, and tell you everything you need to know. Remember how Russia was trying to justify its invasion of Ukraine by claiming it was fighting imaginary Nazis? Yeah, that was something you might have thought was born out of someone at the Kremlin partying way too hard on a Friday night. Except in Moscow, BYOB apparently means bring your own bombs. Thing is, denazifying Ukraine, apart from being delusional, has also been a spectacular failure so far. Imagine fighting against something that isn't there and hoping to succeed. However, that didn't stop Moscow from playing its favorite game of disinformation and actually taking it to a whole new level by expanding into Africa. According to Ukrainian intelligence, TASS and RT are already broadcasting in more than 40 African countries in 6 languages. Now, RT, also known as Russia Today, is steadily spreading like a fungus in a damp cellar. In 2 years, the number of TV channels partnering with RT in Africa has doubled from 30 to 60. This is impressive for a media outlet that is banned in most of the Western world as a propaganda tool. But that's not all. RT is also branching out into education by conducting courses for local journalists. The program is simple. Take a little of the facts, a not-so-little bit of lies, and a sprinkle of geopolitical panic, and the traditional Russian source of anti-Americanism, and serve it all warm. Sounds tasty? Hardly. But the demand, apparently, is still there. Russia is actively looking for personnel to lead new ventures in Africa, and, as a bonus, these new journalists are supposed to supervise training centers at the same time, so that Moscow's factory of fiction will be seemingly in full swing as a result. In June of 2025, the translation of the Kremlin's political storytelling into Portuguese was launched, specifically for viewers in Mozambique and Angola. By the end of the year, they plan to add Amharic for Ethiopia as well. Now, TASS, the old Soviet veteran of propaganda, has decided not to lag behind. The agency is already preparing to open bureaus in Ethiopia, Senegal, Algeria and the Republic of Congo. The recruitment process is not without its surprises. According to the Ukrainian Special Services, everything is happening under the close supervision of the FSB. Seems like they only want journalism if it's closely supervised. Just in case that pesky freedom of speech ever tries to raise its ugly head. The Kremlin is actively trying to sell its vision of reality to Africans. The West is the colonizer, but Russia, somehow, is the liberator. After all, a country that keeps attacking or blackmailing its neighbors doesn't classify as colonial if it sweeps its own colonialism under the rug through propaganda. Throwing 1 million troops at Ukraine and losing them in the process, oh, that's not colonialism, that's a special military operation, and it's happening far, far away, so who cares, right? If you don't believe, watch Mr. Solovyov explain it all so that you don't have to understand anything. So, does it work? Well, partially. In some countries, RT has already become the main source of alternative information, especially in those countries where the authorities themselves don't really shy away from diluting the truth on a regular basis. The African vector is not just about influence, it is also a rehearsal for global revenge in the information sphere, apparently. While Europe might have kicked the Russian 2025 spoken word tour of disinformation off its venue, Africa is hosting an open mic night, and the Kremlin is using it to the fullest. While African viewers are getting used to journalism in the style of "the BBC lied to you, but we'll fix it now," Russia keeps on creating new generations of disinformation super spreaders. And make no mistake, what it does is still colonialism, except limited to the information sphere, at least for now. Russia doesn't respect Africa. It never did. but it would sure like to have a bunch of local dictators ready to, derail you in voting, hand over natural resources in exchange for protection, or even send a few thousand young people for a student exchange that somehow ends up involving running and gunning across the Donbass. Because Russian culture is so mysterious, right? Speaking of mysterious Russian culture, Russian art is apparently following the economy and taking a nosedive into the realm of cringe eternal. Picture the following scene. The governor of the Belgorod region, Vyacheslav Gladkov, presents Vladimir Putin with a painting. Not just any painting, mind you. The title, Belgorod Never Surrenders, says it all. Except it doesn't, because there is one more detail. You see, they didn't use any old canvas for that one. Oh no. Instead, the questionable work of art was executed on the metal casing of an S-400 air defense missile. I suppose the favorite term of movie critics, namely box office bomb, got somewhat lost in both context and translation there.
Для нас ПВО стало такой нормой жизни. И когда читаешь книги о Великой Отечественной войне, очень много было написано книг, песен, написано картин. Да? Вот война, она настолько сильно внутренне проникает во все уголки, и какие-то скрытый потенциал создает. И у нас тяжелые испытания на жителей приграничья выпали. Одна из девушек, художница, она на осколках из 400 стала рисовать эти картины. Ну, это корпус, это крышка, абсолютно верно. Это крышка, да, когда ракеты выходят, они отваливаются, и она стала таким, наверное, символом. С одной стороны, то, что нас защищает, а с другой стороны, и надежда, она не то, что надежда, уверенность в близкой победе, она есть в душе каждого из нас. Поэтому, если честно, хотел передать от всей души. Спасибо большое. Спасибо.
Передайте автору большое спасибо.
Обязательно. Спасибо.
Да, хорошая картинка.
Он душевный.
Белгород не сдается. Да, спасибо большое.
You know, if I didn't know better, I would have thought this thing was like a little tombstone, which, to be fair, probably not the best thing to actually give to someone. Anyway, Belgorod Never Surrenders is a grandiose slogan, kind of like Warhammer's Cadia stands, except Russia is more Tyranids meets chaos than the Imperium of Man. Also, if you listen to the residents of the Belgorod region itself, you'll find out that they would have preferred something a bit different. Belgorod without shelling, perhaps, or even more to the point, where is my roof? There are dozens of destroyed houses in the region, you see, hundreds of people without a roof over their heads, and thousands more suffering from a constant sense of insecurity. But because they live in Russia, they get an artsy missile casing instead of government aid or counseling, like a Russian-style twist on the infamous thoughts and prayers when politicians react to real-life drama with empty platitudes. Actually, to be perfectly honest, the Russian government did something more than that. Believe me, they did. In addition to a chance of experiencing highbrow culture, people whose homes were destroyed by shelling were also given cotton candy. Yes, the very kind that you hand out to kids in local parks and public holidays. What better way to boost morale than a sugar cloud on a stick? You know, in a civilized country, an official who handed over cotton candy instead of temporary housing or financial aid would probably be forced to resign, and rightly so. In Russia, however, such gestures of care are almost a PR success. I guess in a country where most public money is either stolen or diverted to Putin's cronies to buy another penthouse in Dubai, handing out candy is peak generosity. Could have been worse, you know. Imagine getting an army draft letter instead. And with this, we conclude this edition of Break the Fake. Please stay with us here on TVP World for more latest news and updates.